When she realizes she's lost you, it doesn't hit all at once. At first, there's denial, a voice in her head telling her it's just a temporary thing, that you'll text her tomorrow or next week, or maybe even show up unexpectedly. But as the silence stretches on, that small flicker of hope dims, replaced by a weight in her chest that she can't shake. It's the kind of weight that doesn't just hurt, it lingers. It's the moment she realizes the door she thought was just cracked open has been shut entirely, and she's left standing on the other side. She replays everything, over and over. Every conversation, every laugh, every time she caught you looking at her like she was the only person in the world. She remembers how you made her feel like no one else could and wonders where it all went wrong. Was it something she said? Something she did? She'll rack her brain trying to pinpoint the moment you started slipping away. The irony? The more she searches for answers, the more lost she feels, like a puzzle missing its most important piece. Then comes the regret. Not the kind that's about what she said or did, but the kind that burns because she starts to realize what she never said. She should have told you how much you meant to her, how your presence made her world feel a little brighter. She should have thanked you for the little things you probably didn't think twice about, like how you always knew exactly what to say when she was having a bad day. But now those words are stuck in her throat, with nowhere to go. She'll put on a brave face, of course. If you pass her on the street or check her Instagram stories, you'd never guess she's carrying this storm inside her. She'll post pictures of nights out, of laughter, of new adventures, trying to convince herself, and maybe you, that she's fine. But late at night, when it's just her and her thoughts, the truth hits her harder than she's ready to admit. She isn't fine. She misses you in ways she never thought she would. What's worse is the realization of what she took for granted. She didn't think twice when you called just to ask about her day, or when you remembered the small, insignificant details she told you in passing. Back then, those moments felt ordinary. Now, they feel extraordinary. She starts to see the effort you put into making her feel special and hates that she didn't fully appreciate it when she had the chance. And yet, even amidst the pain, there's a spark of something else: growth. Because losing you teaches her things she didn't know about herself. She learns how deeply she's capable of feeling, how much she's willing to fight for something that matters to her. She starts to understand what she truly wants in a partner and what she refuses to settle for in the future. While the loss hurts, it's also shaping her into someone stronger. But there's also a fear, one that creeps in quietly, uninvited. The fear that she won't find anyone who makes her feel the way you did. That the kind of connection you shared was a one-time thing, something she'll spend years searching for, only to come up empty-handed. It's not that she doesn't think she'll love again. It's that she wonders if it'll ever feel as real, as raw, as honest as it did with you. If she could talk to you, if she could tell you everything she's feeling, she might not even know where to begin. Would she apologize for letting things slip? Would she beg for another chance? Or would she simply thank you for being the kind of person who made saying goodbye so damn hard? The words swirl in her mind, but none of them feel right, and so she says nothing. Time will pass, as it always does, and she'll start to heal. The ache won't vanish completely, but it will dull. She'll meet new people, have new experiences, and slowly, the thought of you won't sting quite as much. But every now and then, when a certain song plays or she hears someone laugh in a way that reminds her of you, she'll feel it all over again. The love, the loss, the longing. In the end, what she feels when she realizes she's lost you is a mix of heartbreak and gratitude. Because losing you, as painful as it is, reminds her of how deeply she's capable of loving. It shows her what's worth fighting for, what she wants, and what she'll never take for granted again. And though she may never fully let go of what you meant to her, she'll carry the lessons with her, hoping that next time she'll get it right. When she realizes she's lost you, a deep sense of disbelief settles in. The feeling isn't just about the loss of you. It's about the loss of the future she imagined with you. She had envisioned moments that were still waiting to happen. Anniversaries, vacations, inside jokes, and quiet moments together. Those dreams suddenly feel like they were just a figment of her imagination, leaving her with a sense of mourning for a future that will never exist. As she starts processing this realization, a wave of loneliness rushes over her. It's not just the absence of you, it's the absence of the companionship, the little moments that used to make her day better, the texts, the random calls, the times you'd check in on her without her asking. Those were the threads that wove her sense of connection to you, and now they're gone. She's left grasping at an empty space where something once felt solid. Her mind also begins to wander back to the little things you used to do that she never fully appreciated. How you'd make her coffee just the way she liked it, even on the busiest mornings. Or the way you'd always know exactly what to say when she was feeling down. In losing you, she starts to see those acts of care for what they were, genuine and thoughtful. And she begins to wish she had noticed them more when they were happening. There's also a certain kind of anger that she'll try to suppress. She's angry at herself for not noticing the signs earlier, angry at you for pulling away, and angry at the situation in general. The silence between you is a bitter reminder of how relationships can change, sometimes without warning, and how everything she thought she knew can be swept away in an instant. But even through that anger, there's still love. A love that's not easily erased, no matter how much she wishes it could be. Then comes the questioning of her own worth. She wonders, was I not good enough? It's a painful thought, but one that many go through when faced with the end of something they cared about. Did she do something wrong? Or was this something that was simply inevitable? It makes her second-guess her ability to connect with people, her value in relationships, and whether she'll ever find someone who sees her the way you did. The hardest part, though, is realizing that this feeling of loss will follow her for a while. She knows she'll move on eventually, but there's an understanding that it won't be easy. There's a sense of emotional baggage she'll carry with her, memories that she can't just erase. While she might find new love in the future, it will take time to unpack the remnants of this relationship, and for a while she'll carry a quiet sadness with her. She might also begin to question what this says about her ability to read people. If she's lost you, does that mean she missed something? Some important signal or sign that was there all along? She'll replay conversations, trying to figure out where things started to change, searching for the clues she missed. The more she digs, the more she wonders how much she really knew you, and whether the person she thought she was connecting with was even the real you. In her quieter moments, when she's alone with her thoughts, she'll wonder whether there's a lesson she's supposed to learn from all this. What was the point of everything if it just ends like this? Was it a lesson about love, about trust, about letting go? She's still unsure, but deep down, she knows that someday she'll understand why things happened the way they did, even if it takes time. Eventually, she'll come to a moment of self-realization. She'll understand that losing you doesn't mean losing herself. For a while, she may have attached her happiness and identity to the relationship, but now she's learning how to be whole on her own. Slowly, she'll reclaim her own space and start rediscovering the parts of herself she may have neglected while she was wrapped up in you. It's a painful process, but it's also empowering. Finally, when she's ready to let go of the past, she'll find that while the pain of losing you never completely disappears, it transforms. It shifts from heartbreak to a quieter kind of peace. She'll remember you, not with the sharp sting of loss, but with a bittersweet sense of nostalgia for what was, and a quiet optimism for what's yet to come. She's grateful for their support, but there's a part of her that feels a pang of jealousy. How come they're surrounded by love and connection, while she's here feeling isolated and disconnected? The loneliness can sometimes feel more intense when you see others thriving in relationships or partnerships that seem so effortless. It's not that she doesn't want them to be happy, it's just hard to ignore that emptiness in her own life. She might also begin to ask herself if she should have fought harder for the relationship. What could she have done differently to make things work? Was there a chance she could have salvaged it? Or did it truly run its course? This inner debate weighs on her, feeding into her feelings of self-doubt. She doesn't want to be the person who gave up too easily, but she also has to reconcile with the fact that sometimes no amount of effort can change the outcome. As the days pass, she might start avoiding places or situations that remind her of you. The cafe you both loved to visit, the playlist you used to listen to together, or even the places you would casually talk about visiting. Each memory hits her like a wave, and for a while, she tries to escape them, hoping that time will dull the pain. But avoiding the past only makes it harder to face the reality of losing you. There's also a layer of guilt that she can't quite shake. She feels guilty for still caring about you, guilty for feeling the void you left behind even though it seems like you've moved on. It's as if she's betraying herself by not being over it faster. In her mind, she should be stronger, more resilient. But grief doesn't work on a timeline, and she has to come to terms with the fact that healing is messy, unpredictable, and often out of her control. At some point, she'll start to wonder if she'll ever be able to love again in the same way. She questions whether her heart will ever be open to someone like it was with you, or if it's now closed off, scarred by this loss. She wonders if this experience has forever changed the way she views love, making her more cautious, more guarded. It's hard to imagine letting someone else in when the last person left her feeling like this. In the quiet moments, she might start to realize that she's been neglecting her own needs and desires in the midst of loving you. She puts so much energy into the relationship, constantly considering your feelings, that she forgot what she wanted, what made her happy. Now, with the relationship gone, she starts to reclaim those parts of herself. The hobbies, the passions, the goals she once set aside. It's a bittersweet process, but it's also a reminder that her life doesn't end with the end of a relationship. She might also start questioning what she truly wants from a partner. Before, it might have been about compatibility or shared interests, but now she understands that emotional availability and mutual respect are non-negotiable. She's learned what she's willing to settle for, and more importantly, what she won't ever again. Losing you has made her realize her own value, and she'll refuse to accept less than she deserves in the future. As she moves through her grief, there's an eventual acceptance. It doesn't mean she's forgotten about you, or that the pain is gone. It means she's ready to let go. It's like standing at the edge of a cliff, looking down at the distance you've fallen. You can't undo what's been done, but you can choose to climb up, step by step, back to where you need to be. Acceptance isn't giving up. It's acknowledging that she's ready for the next chapter, whatever that may look like. There will be moments when she feels a glimmer of hope again, when she realizes that despite everything, she's not broken. She's stronger for having loved, for having experienced the highs and lows of a real connection. She'll start to believe that she's capable of loving deeply again, without fear of being hurt. She understands that love isn't something to be afraid of. It's something to embrace, even if it's not always perfect. And one day, when she looks back on this chapter of her life, she might smile through the tears. Because as painful as losing you was, it was also a reminder of how deeply she can care, how much she's capable of feeling. And that, in itself, is something beautiful, something she won't ever lose. As she reflects on the loss, she begins to focus on the growth that comes with pain. She understands that the heartache she's experiencing now is not just a wound, it's an opportunity for transformation. While she's in the midst of feeling lost, she's also becoming someone more resilient, someone who knows how to rebuild after a fall. The realization that she's stronger than she thought allows her to breathe a little easier, knowing that this pain will not define her forever. But in the midst of this growth, she's also hit with a wave of anger toward the situation. She's angry that something so beautiful, something that once brought her so much joy, has been reduced to just another chapter of heartbreak. There are no easy answers, no simple explanations. There's just the loss. And sometimes, the anger gives her the fuel she needs to take the first step forward, a reminder that even negative emotions have their place in the healing process. She also starts to realize that this loss doesn't mean she's not worthy of love. For a while, she might have questioned her own worth. Was there something wrong with her? Did she fail in some way? But now, with the clarity that comes from time, she recognizes that love is not always about what we do or don't do. Sometimes, love just fades and people grow apart. It's painful, but it doesn't take away from her inherent value as a person, as someone deserving of real, lasting affection. As she moves through her healing, there are moments where she finds herself wishing she could have just done one thing differently. Maybe if she had said, "I love you more," or maybe if she had been more patient, things would have been different. These what-ifs linger in her thoughts, like ghosts that refuse to leave. But as time passes, she understands that this kind of thinking doesn't change anything. It's natural to wonder, but it's also important to accept that sometimes things happen for reasons we can't always comprehend in the moment. One of the most surprising things she'll come to realize is the shift in her perspective on life. The loss of you changes the way she looks at herself and the world around her. She becomes more mindful of the present, more attuned to the fleeting nature of time. The small, everyday moments, like watching the sunrise or taking a quiet walk, take on a new depth. She starts appreciating things she might have overlooked before, knowing that nothing is guaranteed. Life is fragile, and it's up to her to make the most of every moment. With time, she also begins to realize how much she relied on the relationship to define her happiness. She now understands that happiness doesn't come from another person. It comes from within. While a relationship can enhance life, it can't complete it. She starts to rebuild her sense of self, finding joy in the things that make her unique, and discovering new passions that she never had the chance to explore before. In essence, she learns that she doesn't need someone else to make her feel whole. She also faces the challenge of navigating her social life post-relationship. The friends you both shared, the mutual connections, now feel like strange territory. She wonders how she'll interact with them without the awkwardness of your absence hanging in the air. Some relationships will naturally fade, while others will become more solid. It's an emotional process, but it's also an opportunity for her to recalibrate the relationships in her life, to ensure they are based on mutual respect, rather than on the foundation of a shared romantic history. As she continues to heal, she begins to remember the lessons you taught her. While the relationship ended, there were still moments that shaped her, that helped her grow. She'll hold on to the good, the lessons learned, and the love shared, keeping them in a place that no one can take from her. These memories become pieces of who she is, and as painful as it is to acknowledge the end, she's grateful for the experiences that came with knowing you. And then, when she least expects it, she feels ready to forgive. At first, forgiveness seems like a foreign concept. Why should she forgive you for causing her so much pain? But as she grows, she understands that forgiveness isn't about excusing what happened. It's about freeing herself from the hold that bitterness and resentment can have on her heart. Forgiveness isn't about you, it's about her peace. And when she forgives, she starts to let go of the hurt that has been weighing her down. Finally, when she thinks about the future, she realizes she's not afraid anymore. While losing you was devastating, she now knows that she can handle life without you. She'll carry the scars from the relationship, but she also knows that those scars are part of her journey. She's learned how to navigate love, loss, and everything in between. And when the time is right, she'll be ready to love again, not as a way to fill a void, but as a way to add to the fullness of her already complete life. As she moves forward, she starts to embrace the idea of independence in a way she never had before. The relationship was once a source of strength, a place where she found comfort and companionship, but now she's learning to stand on her own 2 feet. There's a certain pride that comes with realizing she's capable of handling life's challenges without relying on anyone else for validation or emotional support. She's rediscovering who she is outside of the context of a relationship, and that feels like a victory, no matter how small. However, the absence of your touch, your voice, and your presence still lingers. It's not something that fades immediately. Some days she'll catch herself wishing she could just pick up the phone and talk to you like she used to. The habit of reaching out to you for advice, comfort, or just a random thought will sometimes resurface, reminding her how much of her daily life involved you. These moments remind her that love isn't something you can easily unlearn, even when you know it's over. Yet, in these quieter moments of longing, she begins to realize that she's capable of creating her own comfort. She finds solace in small routines, going for morning walks, reading books that inspire her, journaling her thoughts, or spending time with friends who bring her joy. These moments help her reconnect with herself and provide the peace she needs to slowly move on. It's a reminder that while the relationship may have ended, the things that make her feel whole still exist, even in the absence of love. As she reflects on the relationship itself, she starts to see things with a new perspective. She begins to recognize the lessons that came from being with you. Lessons about what it means to give, to trust, to love without fear. She realizes that not everything in the relationship was perfect, but it still shaped her in profound ways. The mistakes, the misunderstandings, and the arguments have all taught her valuable lessons about what she wants in the future and what she's no longer willing to accept. There's also an important shift in how she views herself post-breakup. For a long time, she may have defined her worth by how loved and valued she felt in the relationship. But now, with the distance from you, she's starting to rebuild her self-esteem from the inside out. She's realizing that her worth was never tied to someone else's love. It was always hers to define. She doesn't need external validation to feel important or worthy of respect. She's reclaiming her own power, and that's something no one can take from her. At times, the emotional waves come crashing back in. Sometimes it's the sudden rush of missing you, and other times, it's the anger that still simmers beneath the surface. There are moments when she wishes she could just wave a magic wand and erase the sadness. But she knows healing is a gradual process. These waves of emotion are part of that process. And while they may feel overwhelming, they're also evidence that she's moving through the healing rather than resisting it. She's allowing herself to feel, even when it's uncomfortable. In the days and weeks that follow, she starts to notice a subtle shift in her mindset. While the grief is still there, it no longer dominates her thoughts. Slowly, she's learning to make peace with the fact that not everything has a clear-cut answer. There's no single reason why things ended the way they did, and that's okay. She's learning to accept the ambiguity of life and love, to stop trying to make sense of things that might never fully make sense. Sometimes things just are what they are, and that's enough. She also begins to take more responsibility for her own happiness. For so long, she may have relied on you to make her feel seen, appreciated, and loved. But now, she understands that she's the one who has to actively choose her happiness. She starts pursuing things that make her excited, whether that's focusing on her career, exploring new hobbies, or building deeper connections with the people around her. She starts to see how much of her own joy has always been within her grasp, even if she didn't realize it before. As time passes, she begins to feel more at peace with the idea of love, not as a necessity, but as a gift. She understands that while it can be beautiful, love doesn't define who she is or her happiness. There's a sense of calm that comes with this realization. She's no longer searching desperately for something to fill the void. Instead, she's learning to live fully and authentically on her own. She realizes that when love comes again, it will be because she's ready, not because she needs it to complete her. Eventually, she'll start to look back at the relationship not just with sadness, but with gratitude. Yes, it hurt to lose you, but she now understands that the love she had with you was part of her journey. It taught her things about herself, about relationships, and about what it means to be vulnerable. While the end of your connection may have felt like a loss, it's also given her the opportunity to learn and grow in ways she couldn't have imagined before. And one day, when she's ready, she'll look back at the love you shared with a sense of peace, knowing that she's stronger and wiser because of it.